Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
And Marianne behind the camera.
And welcome to Cavalcade of Food. And Sister and I are getting ready to go to a little brunch in honor of St. Patrick's Day, aren't we, Mare?
Yes, we are.
Our dear friend Brian, and he always throws great parties. Hey, Brian, and he invited a bunch of folks over, and so we never like to go empty-handed, do we?
No.
So we're going to bring a few things, but most importantly, we're going to bring a lime chiffon cake, Mare. And the reason I'm doing a lime chiffon is because it's something I can make green, right? Because St. Patrick's Day is all about the green. And even though we're not Irish, everybody is sort of Irish on St. Patrick's Day, and everybody sort of loves to celebrate. And so we're going to do the same. So we're going to start by making a lime chiffon cake. Chiffon cakes are something that I've made a few different variations over the years here on Cavalcade of Food. They got introduced in the 1950s and are sort of a hybrid cake, sort of part of a angel food cake because you get sort of the lift and the lightness from egg whites, and then part sponge cake. And I love chiffon cakes, and a lot of people don't make them much anymore, but we're keeping it alive, right, honey?
Right.
Now, the key to the chiffon cake is you want to use cake flour, okay? Not your regular all-purpose flour. If you're going to make a chiffon cake, go ahead and get cake flour, because cake flour is much, much finer than regular all-purpose flour, and it really helps make a really nice, delicate crumb on your cake. So let's start with that. We're using cake flour, and in the bowl here, honey, I've got 2 1/4 cups of cake flour. Now, we're going to add some sugar. I have got 1.5 cups here of sugar. We're going to put that in the bowl. Then we're going to put in some baking powder, and we're going to put in 3 teaspoons of baking powder here. 2, 3, and then of course, like in any cake, you need a little salt. So we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. Just regular table salt's good. Okay, let me get a whisk and let's stir this around. So, oh yeah, we like the chiffon cake too because it's a kind of a high cake, which makes it even a little bit more fun. All right, now, okay, whoop. Try not to get too much flour outside of the bowl. So now, Mare, what we got to do is we got to make a well, okay, in the middle of our bowl here. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to try to do that. And we're going to put stuff in the bowl, and it's important. We want to do it in order. And we're going to start with 1/2 cup of oil. All right, just vegetable oil. Then we're going to put 5 egg yolks. Now, it calls for egg yolks and egg whites because we're going to whip the whites up. So I actually have 5 egg yolks and 8 whites from large eggs. Here's what I'll tell you about separating eggs, however you like to do it. It's easier to separate an egg when it's cold when the egg is cold. However, Mare, when using eggs for baking, what should we do?
They should be warm.
Room temperature,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, separate your eggs first and get that out. One, it gets it out of the way, and two, when you take those eggs out of the fridge and they're still cold, you'll find that they separate more easily. All right, we're going back to our well here. So I've got my 5 egg yolks. We're going to put those egg yolks in here. All right. Then we need 3/4 of a cup of cold water. I had this in the fridge, so it's nice and cold. We're going to put that in there. Then I zested 2 limes. We're going to use the lime juice for an icing. So here's my limes. Always, you want to zest them before you juice them. Okay? So I put the limes here. We're going to put in a good tablespoon of lime zest. That's going to give us our lime flavor. I've got a little left over there. You know what, Mare? I'll use that in the icing.
Yeah. Or you can sprinkle it over the cake when you're done icing
Absolutely.
it.
Use it as like a decor.
Yeah.
And we're going to do an icing as opposed to a frosting with this cake, but I'll talk more about that later. And then finally, we want to put in a couple of teaspoons of vanilla. One, 2. And I did say I wanted to make this cake green, didn't I?
Yes.
So we got some food coloring here. We're going to put in, I don't know how much it's going to take, and we'll put in a few little droplets here. We can always add more. Now we're going to start mixing this up. Do it slowly and gradually, but we're going to stir all this together to make our batter. You could certainly do this with an electric mixer if you wanted to. And I've got one here at the ready, which I'm going to be using for the egg whites, but for the batter here, I just thought I could mix this fairly easily by hand. Oh, that's nice and green, isn't it, Mare?
Yeah.
So, honestly, if I was making this not for St. Patrick's Day, I wouldn't color it green, okay? But I am making it for a St. Patrick's Day party, so I'm making it green. So you can make it green or not green. I'll leave that up to you.
Kev, there's still some cake flour on the side down there.
I see. Okay, well, it's just going to have to sit there. All right, we'll be okay. It's not much enough to make any kind of a difference. All right.
It looks like it's gone.
There we go. Okay, good. So we've got that stirred. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to get our eggs ready to beat. I'm going to get some of this stuff off the counter and we will come back. We're making a lime chiffon cake for St. Patrick's Day. So we are going to whip up our 8 egg whites. Here's the thing, you need a cup, 1 cup of egg whites, okay? In this case, it took 8 eggs. It's all in the recipe, which is below the description, right, Mare? That's
right.
Where we put it. So we're gonna use one of our vintage, check out this little mix master, Mare. And this is kind of a special one. You know why?
Why?
You know whose mix master this was?
Mrs. Kelly's?
No.
I'm not sure.
Mrs. Pabst.
Oh, okay.
Betty Pabst, a wonderful woman from here in Croswell who happened to be the owner of the Ben Franklin store. And this was her mix master. So anyways, we cherish it. And by the way, if you've ever noticed on the mix masters, now our appliance friends, Mayor, will know this, so but for those of you who don't, Mixmaster had beaters that looked like this. Do you see how one's not like the other toots?
Yeah.
Yes. So this one, which is sort of cone shaped, goes on the outside. And this square one goes on the inside. And the reason why this one goes on the outside is, if you'll notice, Mayor, it follows the contour of the bowl. That's one, right?
Right.
And two, it has a nylon button at the bottom. And that is what spins against the bowl and turns it. Pretty ingenious, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how, when you've got a classic mix master, you know which one goes in what position. Okay, so we've got our beaters in. We're going to put in our cup of egg whites. Make sure we got it all out of there. And then, Mayor, we're going to put in a half of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
We're going to put in a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. If I can get to it. There we go. And the cream of tartar sort of is a stabilizer for the egg whites and helps them kind of hold up and get their shape. So we want to beat these steps. Can you see what's happening?
Yep.
That's why I used a clear bowl. Okay, Mayor, stiff peaks. That's what we want. So, okay, now I'm going to release these beaters here. We always want to knock these beaters on the bowl, and if the bowls were metal, it'd be okay, but you got to be careful with these glass bowls. So many of these, and believe me, I've done it many times. I find these glass bowls and they got all these little chips all along the edge, and I know just what happened because I have done it. Anyways, okay, we're gonna get these egg whites here. Again, it's the egg whites that are going to give such a nice lift to this cake and keep it light. Okay, let me get this stuff out of the way. Okay, Mayor, if I didn't say so, the oven is preheated to 325 degrees. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, remember our green batter here?
Yes.
We are going to gradually pour this over the egg white. The egg white's going to lighten this color up a little bit. So the cake will not bake as green as this, but I'm hoping it'll be somewhat green. And like you were talking about, Marianne, we can always green up the icing, can't we?
Yes.
All right, now we got to fold. Mary, you got to know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them, right?
Right.
So this is a really gentle process, and we've talked about folding on Cavalcade before. We go under, turning the bowl, and we bring it over. Under, turning over, like so. And we're going to be gentle. You know why we're doing this gently?
So the egg whites don't get flat.
Exactly right. Exactly right, honey. We just went through all that fuss, right?
Right.
To beat these egg whites. We don't want to flatten them out. We want to stir this until those whites are just combined with the batter, and we're no longer seeing any kind of streaks of white in the mix here. You might get a little pocket with a little piece of white here and there. Don't worry about it. That'll be okay. We just want to get this as well incorporated as we can. And I would say we are just about there. It is a pretty color, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even now it's kind of almost a seafoam green. All right, so now I've got a tube pan here. Hold on, let me do a quick wash. We're gonna use a 10-inch tube pan there, ungreased. You know why we're not greasing this pan?
So it can climb up the sides.
That's right, baby. We're gonna climb up the mountain, okay? And we don't want the batter, if the sides of this thing was greased, that batter would keep sliding down. We want that batter to grab onto the side. Normally when we bake stuff, we always grease the pan or put parchment in there or both or whatever. This is a case where we're not going to do that. So we've got a tube pan, which is in 2 pieces, okay? It's called a tube pan, Mare, because what do you got right here?
A tube.
A tube, okay? And the reason the tube is there is because the heat in your oven is going to go up. Heat rises, okay? The heat's going to go up through this tube. And this tube is going to get hot, and it'll radiate inside the middle of the cake. Then you're going to have heat coming up the sides, and that's how it will bake. All right, so that's why we use a tube pan here. So now, again, ungreased. This is a tube pan that has little legs on it. And that's because a lot of times, angel food cake, chiffon cake, when you cool it, we have to invert it. And those little legs allow you to do that. Although I actually like to hang it off of a wine bottle or something, because I like to get it even higher off the counter. You'll find some tube pans that don't have these little attached legs, and that's fine. Like I said, you can use a bottle instead. All right, now, Mare, we're going to put this batter in the tube pan. I love how you can see the flecks of the lime zest. So again, this is a little bit of not a cold oven, but normally we bake at 350 is kind of the default temperature for so many things. This is going to be at 325, but it's going to be longer than normal, okay? This is going to bake for about 1 hour and 15 minutes at 325. Get all that out of there. So we're going to bake this. We'll know it's done because the top of the cake, when you give it a little push, it'll spring back, okay? That's how we know it's done. So 325, again, an hour and 15 minutes. Center of the oven. There we go. See you in about 75 minutes, folks. So, Mayor, it's been almost an hour and 15 minutes, about an hour and 12 minutes. I'm going to give this a check and see. Again, yes. Bounces back. There it is. And we are going to invert. I've got a wine bottle here at the ready. We're going to put it right like that. Now we have to let this cake cool completely before we can do anything. Okay?
Okay.
So it's going to need, a couple hours probably. And then we'll get it out of the pan. Make a nice lime icing. We got 2 limes. We'll get those juiced. And we got some zest still to use up. And we'll be ready with our lime chiffon cake. So, honey, we've waited a couple of hours. And maybe that's for later. So now what we have to do is we've got to get the cake out of the pan. And if you remember, Mare, we didn't grease the pan, did we?
No.
So, we have to help it along since we didn't grease the pan, but there's a reason we didn't. Look how beautiful that came up. So what I'm going to do is I've got a very thin knife. You could also use a metal spatula, a thin one if you had one. Do I have one here to show? And all this stuff. Do I have one? Of course I do not. But anyways, like an icing spatula or something like that. And I'm just going to go around the rim of the cake. With my thin knife and kind of just up and down, loosen that. This is a job, Mare, there will be crumbs, okay?
Okay.
Just one of those things. Now, you know this is in 2 parts, right? It has a bottom.
Yep.
And so we're gonna, there we go. I'm gonna push the bottom and bring it out like that. Okay?
Okay.
So, we did pretty good. Didn't stick too much to the inside. Now, I've got to loosen around the tube. I'm gonna do the same thing with my knife here and go around with my knife. Now, we're going to invert this cake. See how it's, right now this cake is sort of like this. You could do it either way. If you want to have it so that it slopes down like this, you have to level off the top. So you would just trim a little bit, you would just trim off a little bit around if you wanted to. Now what I'm also going to do is there's the bottom. We've got to loosen it there. So I'm going to run my knife around. See the crumbs? It's just sometimes in life you get crumbs, right, honey?
Right.
It's just part of doing a job. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my little cake carrier here so that we can take it to the party. So I'm going to do like this. How about that? Okay?
Yeah.
So now the bottom is the top and the top is the bottom. I could have trimmed it off a little bit, but I didn't. So that it sits sort of flat. Or you can flip it and have it go the other way if you want to do it that way. I kind of like it like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than sloping up, sloping down. And anyways, there's the cake. If you can see sort of under the whoop. Look, it is green, Mare.
Yeah.
So, beautiful green. Okay. All right, let me get these crumbs cleaned up a little bit here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make, rather than frosting for the cake, we are going to make an icing for the cake, okay? That we'll put over top of this cake. All right, honey, I have got 3 cups of powdered sugar in this bowl, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you remember, we had 2 limes, and I zested those limes, and we used a tablespoon of the zest in the cake batter. The remainder of the zest I've got here, all right? Then, this is the juice from the 2 limes. I'm going to start with that. Not a ton, but we're going to put that in there. By the way, this whole cake situation, you could do, and I'm going to put the zest in here too, the remainder. This whole cake situation, Mare, we did a lime version. You could just as easily do a lemon chiffon or an orange chiffon. Both would be terrific. And all you'd really have to do is just swap out, you know, the lemon and for the lime, okay, or the orange. So you can be creative if lime's not your bag. Now, this is pretty nice and thick. I'm actually not gonna do too much to it. I may add a little bit more. You know how it is with powdered sugar. I'm gonna put another 1/4 cup in here. Okay. And just to thicken it up. Now, again, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't St. Patrick's Day. But we want to green up the icing a little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
Just to make it fun. I'm just going to start and put a couple of drops of green food coloring in here. And just to make it fun. If I was just, oh yeah, if I was just making this cake, I wouldn't put it in the batter or in the icing, but it is St. Patrick's Day. Okay, here we are. How's that? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a tablespoon here and kind of put this over. Sometimes you can ice if you want to put the cake on a wire rack so that any of the excess icing kind of runs down the side and doesn't pool at the bottom. This is pretty thick. I want to cover the top completely with the icing, Mare. And then if some of it runs down the side, that's great. But I want the whole top covered here with our icing. And then if you put some right on the edge, you'll find gravity will work its magic, and it will gently go down the side. Get a spatula here to get all that good icing. The thicker your icing, the faster it will set up and become firm. So this is sort of medium, I would say. I've made thicker icing and I've made thinner icing, but this will be fine. Okay. We don't want the cake so super sugary sweet. I know kids like it that way. This is a very grown-up party we're going to, so anyways, we're gonna let this set up for a minute, and then we gotta taste it, don't we, Mare?
Yeah.
And it won't be the first time I've walked into a party with a cake or a pie with a piece of it missing. And what do people say? Oh, okay, you must have done this for Cavalcade. That's just how we roll around here, folks. Okay, we'll be right back and give our lime chiffon cake a little taste test. Well, Toots, what do you say? Is it cutting time?
Let's eat cake.
Let's eat cake. Okay, I'm gonna slice into this. The icing isn't completely set yet, but it's almost there. Let's just put this, So, if you look at this, you have the very delicate crumb. It's a sponge, but you have the lightness of a angel food cake. Beautiful. And that green, how about that, Mare? Again, it would have been just kind of a white cake with green flecks if we had not done the food coloring. And I think, but for St. Patrick's Day, I think this will be fun. Don't you, Mare?
Yes.
But how does it taste? That's the key. Light, airy, but moist, delicate. Look at that. That beauty. Isn't that great? Yeah. Really getting the lime. It's very subtle in the cake. It's very pronounced in the frosting because, of course, we use the lime juice. So I think you could use more than a tablespoon of lime zest in this cake if you wanted to, Mare. If you really wanted it limey. But, oh, that's good. That is just a nice, old-fashioned chiffon cake. Well, I hope everybody at the party likes it. I know we will. So, again, the recipe down below the description, it's there because I remembered I actually said the wrong thing on our icing recipe. I said I had 3 cups of powdered sugar. I did not, Mare. I had a 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. So that often happens, that I say the wrong thing, but the recipe underneath is the correct measurement. Anyways, thank you, honey, for working the camera.
You're welcome.
And so we can walk into our party with this, well, slightly sampled lime chiffon cake. Let's remind our food friends about the website, Mare.
Cavalcadeoffood.com.
That's it, cavalcadeoffood.com. We thank everybody for watching. We appreciate your time. Please subscribe if you're so inclined. That does help the channel over here. Share and like and all that good stuff. Hope everybody's warm and well. Spring is on its way, and we're happy about that. And we'll see you all again real soon back here at Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.
Bye.